Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to start with Unit 4, Biomolecules. So in this particular unit, we are going to actually cover about, what are biomolecules. Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to start with Unit 4, Biomolecules. So in this particular unit, we are actually going to discuss upon what are biomolecules, then what are the different sources of these biomolecules, what is the function of these biomolecules in a body, and then these biomolecules, what are the different chemical elements present in these biomolecules, and how to do the laboratory test to detect the presence of these biomolecules in various food sources. Okay, so let's begin with what are biomolecules. So as the name suggests, biomolecules, these are actually the molecules which are present in any living organism. Okay, and you can also say that biomolecules, they are the basic building blocks of living organisms, because living organisms body is actually composed of, or it's made up of, these biomolecules. Fine. And these biomolecules are also involved in very important processes in the body, like life processes, and then they are also involved in the maintenance of our body. So the most important biomolecules are carbohydrates, lipids or fats. Fats are also known as lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. Okay, so carbohydrates, lipids or fats, proteins, and nucleic acid, these are the four biomolecules about which we are going to cover in this unit. About these three, for sure, you have heard earlier: carbohydrates, lipids or fats, and proteins. Okay, this last one, that is nucleic acid, also you have heard of it. You know about the genetic material, DNA, right? Uh, you know about DNA, isn't it? So the DNA and RNA, okay, these genetic materials, they are actually nothing but nucleic acids. Okay, so nucleic acids are actually the genetic material, DNA or RNA. Okay, so this DNA and RNA also comes under biomolecules. So we will discuss about these biomolecules one by one. First, we will discuss about carbohydrates. So as the name suggests, carbohydrates, they have three major elements in them, that is carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Okay, it's written here: carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Okay, so these three are the elements present in carbohydrates. The very important function of carbohydrate is that carbohydrates, they provide energy for all the metabolic processes which takes place in a body. This is a very, very, very important function of carbohydrates. Okay, you know that plants, they prepare in photosynthesis a very simple sugar or a very simple carbohydrate called glucose, right? And animals also, whatever food we eat, okay, so in that food, whatever carbohydrate is there, finally that carbohydrate will get digested into a simple sugar, that is glucose. You have studied about this in your lower grades, that is grade 7th, okay, in digestion unit. So carbohydrates, they finally get digested into glucose. Okay, so glucose is a very simple sugar. Okay, and this sugar is involved in the process of respiration. Respiration is a process in which glucose is broken down in presence or absence of oxygen molecule in order to release energy. Okay, and this energy which is released in the process of respiration is used in various metabolic processes in our body. Okay, so very important function of carbohydrate is it provides energy in the process of respiration for various metabolic processes which takes place in our body. Okay, apart from this, carbohydrates, they also have other functions, especially in the structure of in organizing the structure of any living organism. For example, when we talk about plants, we know that all plant cells, they have cell wall, right? Now the cell wall of carbohydrate, they actually have cellulose in them, and cellulose is cell wall of plant cells, they actually have cellulose in them. Okay, and this cellulose is a type of carbohydrate. Okay, apart from this, carbohydrates are also involved in, like, cell membrane. You have studied in chapter 2 the structure of cell membrane. Okay, so cell membrane is always like, bilipid layer, and in between we have proteins. Okay, protein molecules. So on the top of protein molecules, we have these carbohydrate chains. These carbohydrate chains actually helps in, in the interaction with surrounding cells, or you can say it actually helps in cell identification. So similar types of cells, they can identify each other with the help of these carbohydrate chains, which are present on the top of protein molecules embedded in the fluid mosaic model, embedded in the bilipid layer. Okay, so carbohydrates are actually of three types: monosaccharide, polysaccharide, and disaccharide. So the meaning of word mono is one, okay, and saccharide means sugar unit. So that means carbohydrate which is having only one sugar unit, or carbohydrate which is made up of only one sugar unit, is known as monosaccharide. Okay, they are also known as simple sugar. Why they are called simple sugar? Because they are not complex. They obviously they are not complex. Okay, they are called simple sugar because they are not complex. They are made up of only one single sugar unit. That's the reason they are known as simple sugar. Okay, they are all reducing sugars. So remember this point, very important. Monosaccharides are all reducing sugar. The meaning of word reducing sugar is, you have studied in your chemistry about redox reactions, that is reducing agent and oxidizing agent. So all these monosaccharides, they can act as a reducing agent. Okay, that's the reason they are known as reducing sugars. Okay, and these monosaccharides, they are all soluble in water. Now in market we get the packet of instant glucose, isn't it? So that instant glucose, you have consumed it many a times. Like for example, if you take 1 spoon of that simple sugar or instant glucose, okay, and dissolve it in water, okay, dissolve it in water in a glass, so you can see that that glucose will get completely dissolved in water, isn't it? So that's the best example to justify this point, that monosaccharides, they are soluble in water. Okay, so and the examples of monosaccharide is glucose, fructose, erythrose, etc. Okay, fructose is actually also known as fruit sugar. So fruits which we eat fruits, right? So most of the fruits like apple, banana, okay, mangoes and all, they have fructose in it. Okay, so fructose is actually also known as fruit sugar. Okay, and all these monosaccharides, they are sweet in taste. Okay, they taste sweet. Then next type of carbohydrate is disaccharide. You can see here disaccharide. Okay, the meaning of this word di is two, and saccharide means sugar unit. So the carbohydrates which are made up of two sugar units, they are known as disaccharides. Okay, so these disaccharides, they are made up of two sugar units. In case of disaccharides, some are reducing sugars and some are not. Okay, remember this, only some are reducing sugar and some are not. Okay, and these disaccharides are also soluble in water. Example of these disaccharides is sucrose, lactose, and maltose. Okay, so sucrose is actually, the sugar which we eat in a home. Okay, you are aware that in a home we use white crystalline sugar. Okay, so that sugar is actually sucrose. Fine, and the sugar which is present in milk is lactose, and the maltose is actually a sugar which we whenever we eat rice or any food which is rich in starch. Starch is a polysaccharide. Starch is a type of carbohydrate which is made up of many units of glucose, and hence it is called polysaccharide. So whenever we eat starch in our in a food, so that starch gets digested into maltose. Okay, so sucrose, lactose, and maltose, these three are the examples of disaccharides which you have to remember. Okay, now I said that these disaccharides, they are soluble in water. You can take the example of white crystalline sugar which we eat or which we consume in a home. Okay, that is actually chemically called sucrose. Now if we'll take 1 spoon of white crystalline sugar and dissolve it in water, keep on stirring the spoon, so you can make out that sucrose or the white crystalline sugar gets completely dissolved in water. Okay, so that means disaccharides are soluble in water. You should also remember the monomeric units of these disaccharides. Okay, monomeric units means the sugar units or the monomers of these disaccharides. Sucrose is actually made up of glucose and fructose. So one glucose plus one fructose molecule together makes sucrose. Okay. Then lactose is made up of glucose and galactose. Galactose is also a monosaccharide. Okay. So remember this. Lactose, the monomers of lactose is glucose and galactose. Okay. Monomers of sucrose is glucose and fructose. Okay. And then maltose. Monomers of maltose is glucose and glucose. So two glucose units together, they form maltose. Okay, one glucose, when it combines with galactose, it forms lactose. And when one glucose molecule and when one fructose molecule, they combine with each other, they form sucrose. Okay, and sucrose is a normal white crystalline sugar which you eat in a home. Okay, then the third and final type of carbohydrate is polysaccharide. The meaning of word poly is many. Okay, and saccharide means sugar units. Actually, you cannot count these sugar units. Okay, so saccharides are made up of many sugar units. That's the reason they are known as polysaccharides. Okay, all polysaccharides, they are non-reducing sugars. Very important point. They are all non-reducing sugar. That means they do not act like a reducing agent. Okay, they are all insoluble in water. Fine. Okay, and the example is starch, glycogen, cellulose, etc. Okay, now for example, you take a rice, okay, raw rice, grind it in a mixer, and then try to dissolve that raw rice in water. You will find that even after, keep on stirring spoon for 5 to 10 minutes, you cannot dissolve the starch, or you cannot dissolve that rice powder in water. Why? Because rice is actually composed of, it's very rich in a polysaccharide, that is starch. Okay, so rice is rich in starch, which is a polysaccharide. Okay, so rice cannot be dissolved in water. Fine. The monomeric unit of starch is many glucose units together. Actually, for all three, that is starch, glycogen, and cellulose. For all three, the monomeric unit is glucose. Okay, so many glucose units, they join with each other and they form starch, glycogen, and cellulose. Actually, the difference between the starch, glycogen, and cellulose is the glucose units. There are many glucose units which are present in starch, glycogen, and cellulose, but the arrangement of these glucose unit is different. Whether there is one single chain of glucose is present, or branched chain, or how many branched chains are present and how many interbranching is present between these chains. Okay, so the structure completely differs, but yes, the monomer of all these three is a simple glucose molecule. Okay, many glucose molecules together, they join and they form starch, glycogen, and cellulose. Cellulose, you are aware that it is present in the cell wall of plants. Okay, it's also present in the paper because paper is made out of trees. Okay, isn't it? So paper is also having cellulose. Starch, you are aware that it's present in food items like rice. Okay, then potatoes are rich in starch. Sweet potatoes are also rich in starch. Apart from this, when during the process of photosynthesis, plants, they produce glucose. Okay, so whatever amount of glucose is required by the plant uses that. Okay, and then only leaf alone cannot keep all the glucose. Okay, leaf has to distribute it to different parts of the plant. So this glucose joins with another fructose molecule and forms sucrose. So so in plants, glucose is produced in the process of photosynthesis. Okay, transportation of this glucose does not happen in form of glucose. This sugar or this food is translocated to different parts of the plant in the form of sucrose. Okay, and whatever amount of glucose is required, that is consumed by the plant. The excess amount of glucose is always stored in plant in the form of starch. Okay, so this point is important. About this in detail you will learn in transportation chapter, transports and transportation in plants. Okay, so in plant, how starch is present? Starch is present because starch is a stored food for plants. Okay, starch is a stored food for plants. Okay, so excess amount of glucose which is not consumed by the plant is stored in plants in form of starch. Glycogen is when we consume, in animals actually it is present, when we consume carbohydrates in a food, when we take excess of carbohydrate in a food, so the amount of glucose which is required for the respiration, our body leaves that, okay, but excess amount of glucose which is present in a food is actually gets converted into glycogen. Okay, it is converted into glycogen by liver. Okay, so liver cells, they play a very important role in converting excess amount of glucose into glycogen in our body. Okay, and hence this glycogen gets stored in liver. Okay, for example, sometimes when we we do fasting, okay, and sometimes when we skip our meals, okay, still it's not like that we die, or it's not like that our body stops functioning, the cells, they stop functioning. No, because liver cells, they always have always have stored glycogen in them. Okay, so this glycogen at that particular time is broken down into glucose and released into the blood, and hence this glucose is then used for the process of respiration. Okay, so we have discussed about monosaccharides, disaccharides and polysaccharides. Next is very important, you have to actually learn about the test for starch. Okay, this is a laboratory test. Many times questions are asked on this particular topic. This is very important. Okay, so in order to do the test for starch, the reagent used is iodine solution. Okay, so remember, what is the reagent here we are using? Iodine solution. This points you have to remember as such. The reagent used for, the chemical reagent used for the test of starch is iodine solution. Very important, initial color of the reagent, that is yellow or brown. If you'll see here in the dropper, this is the dropper, transparent glass is there. Okay, so if you look here, the color of the iodine solution in this transparent glass, you can make out it can be called yellow or brown. Okay, or you can simply say yellowish brown or brownish yellow. Okay, after you perform the test for starch, okay, so the final color of color for after performing the test for starch is bluish black. So if we'll take some amount of iodine in the dropper and pour 4 or 5 drops of iodine on a cut potato, or on cooked rice, okay, or on a piece of paper, you will get this blue black color. So the appearance of this blue black color actually shows the presence of starch in it. Okay, so remember, while doing the test for starch, you have to remember these things very well. The reagent used for testing for starch is iodine solution. Okay, the initial color of the reagent was yellow or brown. The final color after performing test is bluish black. Sometimes these questions are asked for 1 mark. Okay, one more very important question which is asked in especially in your ATP papers, it's very important color, very important point which is asked in your ATP paper is color change. Okay, so what is the color change? Now here the mistake which is made by students is they will only write sometimes they write only yellowish brown, sometimes they write only bluish black color. Okay, nobody will write yellowish brown, but yes, they write only bluish black color. But remember, they are not asking you the final color after test. Okay, they have asked you the color change. So you have to mention the change. What is the change in the color? So whenever we talk about change, you have to mention both the ends. Okay, initial color as well as the final color. Okay, so the initial color is yellowish brown and the final color is bluish black. Okay, so for test for starch, the color changes yellowish brown to bluish black color. I hope I've made it clear to you. Next, the procedure is given. How you can perform this test is, take 1 ml of food sample in the test tube. You have to take a clean and dry test tube. Take 1 ml of food sample in it. Then add 4 to 5 drops of iodine solution in the food sample and then observe the color change. Okay. Appearance of blue-black color shows the presence of starch. So in case if you get blue-black color, that means starch is present in it. And if there is no blue-black color, the color of iodine solution remains as such, that is yellowish brown. That means starch is absent in that particular food item, right? Now, I've already told you about these reducing sugars, isn't it? I've already discussed about reducing sugars in the previous slides. all monosaccharides, and some of the disaccharides, they are all reducing sugars. Okay, so reducing sugars are the sugars which actually act as an reducing agent. Fine. Now, while performing this test, the reducing sugar, the reagent used is Benedict's solution. The name of this solution is actually kept after the scientist who has discovered this test. His surname was Benedict. So we call it as Benedict's solution. Okay. Very important. The initial color of this reagent is sky blue. So for all these tests, you have to remember the reagent's name, the chemical reagent's name, plus what is the initial color, and after performing the test, what is the final color, and then what is the color change. Okay, so the reagent used for testing reducing sugar is Benedict solution. Okay, the initial color of the reagent is sky blue. So you can see here in the picture here, this one is sky blue color. This is actually a Benedict solution. Okay, so Benedict solution is always having this sky blue color, or in simple terms, blue color. Okay. When you perform the test for reducing sugar, after completing the test, the final color which you will get, okay, that could be green, yellow, orange, or it can be brick red. What color will appear after performing the test, whether it will be green, yellow, orange, or brick red, that depends on actually the amount of reducing sugar present in the food item. Okay. So for example, if the amount of reducing sugar in the food is less, or it's very less, or just a traceable amount is present, so that will be green. And if a very high amount of reducing sugar is present in the food, hence you will get the color brick red. Okay. So what is the color change? Color change will be, generally you can write in exam, blue to brick red. Okay. So reagent used here is Benedict solution. Initial color is blue. Okay, final color can be green, yellow, orange, and finally brick red. And the color change is always right, blue to brick red. Now look at the picture here, very interesting picture and very important. In tube 1, they shows they have added water and Benedict solution. So they have taken plain water, and in that they have added Benedict solution. So after performing test, what happened? The color remained as such, because obviously water cannot have reducing sugar in it. Okay, plain water or normal water doesn't have reducing sugar in it. Table 2 is actually having glucose and Benedict solution in it. That means in this particular test tube, a glucose was taken, okay, plus Benedict solution was added. And after the test was performed, brick red color was observed. Okay. The appearance of brick red color here shows that glucose is a reducing sugar, or you can say the appearance of brick red color shows that whatever food was tested for reducing sugar, the results were positive. That means that food had enough amount of reducing sugar in it. And we know that glucose is a monosaccharide, and all monosaccharides, glucose is a monosaccharide, and all monosaccharides, they are reducing sugars. In third tube, they have taken sucrose and Benedict solution. Okay, and sucrose, we are aware that it's a disaccharide, and the monomeric units of sucrose are glucose and fructose. Okay, so after sucrose has been tested with Benedict solution, we got negative result. That means the color remained as such. The color of Benedict solution remained as such. So it shows that sucrose is a non-reducing sugar. Okay, so understand that only some disaccharides are reducing sugar, rest all disaccharides are non-reducing sugar. For example, lactose, okay, the milk sugar, that is lactose, okay, which is made up of one glucose unit plus one galactose unit. Okay, so that lactose is a reducing sugar. Okay, that is a disaccharide. Lactose is a disaccharide which is reducing sugar. Sucrose is also a disaccharide, but it's a non-reducing sugar. Okay. So here the next slide shows you the color of this Benedict reagent test. After performing the test, if the color remains blue, that means no reducing sugar is present in it. If the color changes to green, okay, if you get green, PPT means precipitate. If you get green precipitate, that means traceable or very, very, very low amount of reducing sugar is present in the food. If you get yellow precipitate, that means low amount. Okay, if you get orange precipitate, that means moderate amount is present. Okay, if you get brick red precipitate, okay, brick red precipitate, That means a very high amount of reducing sugar is present in the food. So you generally get this brick red precipitate when we test for reducing sugar in apple, okay, and this yellow precipitate you get when we test for lactose in milk, okay. Next slide is, this is Benedict's test result, okay. This is Benedict's test result. So this is a blue solution which shows negative result. That means reducing sugar is absent. Green or yellow precipitate which shows traceable or low amount of reducing sugar. This is orange precipitate, okay, which shows moderate amount of reducing sugar, and this one is brick red. It shows very large amount or high amount of reducing sugar in the food item. Fine. Now we have discussed the procedure for testing for starch. We should also know what is the procedure for testing for reducing sugar. Okay, so this procedure is, you have to take a clean and dry test tube. You have to take you should actually take a clean and dry test tube, okay. In that add food sample, fine, 1 ml of food sample, okay. Then in that food sample add 2 ml of Benedict solution, okay. So in food sample you have to add 2 ml of Benedict solution, okay. Now keep this test tube in hot water bath for 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, so remember, in Benedict test, you have to take a dry test tube, okay, add 1 ml of food sample in it. In the same food sample, add 2 ml of Benedict solution, okay, and then keep this test tube in hot water bath for 5 to 10 minutes, okay. And after you will keep this test tube in hot water bath for 5 to 10 minutes, you can check the results. If you will get blues, if the solution color will remain blue as such, so that means reducing sugar is absent. And if you get any color out of this, that is green, yellow, orange or brick red, okay. If you get any color out of this, that is green, yellow, orange or brick red precipitate, that means the solution, the food sample is actually having reducing sugar in it, okay. So I hope you guys are clear with the test for starch and test for Benedict solution, or test for reducing sugar, sorry, using Benedict reagent, okay. And remember, these two tests are very important, because on these two tests sometimes we get questions in our paper number 6, that is alternative to practicals. Take care. In next video we are going to learn about fats and proteins.